Hi, hybrid learners. Today we are taking a little bit of a break from our normal hybrid learning because all of you who missed class are going to be working in teams of people in our class to help build and present a model Seder on March 31st, Friday, March 31st, from about 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock. This is mostly an 11th grade production. And what's going to happen is students from grade 6 to grades 10 are going to be divided into groups of about 16 or 17. All are going to have a room, all are going to have a supervisor and a place to be. And each of them are going to be part of a group of leaders. So this is the leadership group, the leader groups. These are the groups for leading these four different seders. Francisco, actually, you are on one of these teams as well, and I'm going to place you on the team with David, Keshet, Eric, and Eric. So you're on team number two. Um, just so you know, you have a let's see. Let me just get out of this to kind of show you something that I that are Okay, so you'll see right here that our hybrid class, we have we're going to be, we worked yesterday on this project a little bit. We're going to be working more on the 22nd and also the 29th. We're presenting on the 31st. That's when this thing called the Model Seder is happening. I'm going to explain that in a minute. And each of these, we're going to be meeting actually from 9 to 9:30 on Monday night, 9 to 9:30 in a Zoom, and then I'm going to have breakout groups for your groups to do that, and that's going to take the place. Your being there and participating is going to be your Ed Puzzle points for the week. So that's going to happen on Monday, 9 to 9:30. We took a poll in the class, and that was a time that worked for everyone. So question number one is, does that time work for you, 9 to 9:30, if I'm zooming and then you're working with your group? And then good. Okay. So here we go. So again, Noah, your group is group one, and Francisco, your group is group number two for the Seder. So let's kind of just first ask a question of what is a Seder and why is that happening here at school. And so as you both know, that there are many different holidays during the year, right? We just passed the Jewish holiday of Purim, and we're coming up to the holiday of Passover. And this is a holiday basically that commemorates when the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt and when they became free. And it just so happens that on the first, actually, Passover is an 8-day holiday. And probably the most important custom of those 8 days, or there are two important customs. The custom that is during all those 8 days is to actually, it's 7 days, but 8 days in any place but Israel. So the most important thing about that custom, about those days, are that we don't eat bread that has leaven or yeast in them at all. So we eat an unleavened bread or an unyeasted bread called matzah. I actually think matzah was probably more like a tortilla way back when, but we have this thing called matzah, which you'll see and hopefully enjoy during our Passover seders. What is So question number one is, what is the question number two is, what do we eat during the holiday of Passover? And question number three is, go online and put that word matzah in and give me a picture of what matzah. Give me two different pictures of what matzah actually looks like. Okay. Also a big custom for these days is this thing called a seder. And a seder comes from the word lehagid, to tell. And we use something called a Haggadah, which is basically a script of the telling of the Seder. Now, why is this? What is this all about? Well, actually, the Torah itself tells us that we have to have this thing called a telling. So let's just look at the Torah where it talks about the 10th and final plague that Pharaoh gets, because basically there are these 10 plagues that Pharaoh doesn't want to let the Israelites leave. 10 plagues are given, and on the 10th plague, that's when actually the Israelites get to leave. So here, let's just look at the Torah pieces here. Kill a lamb at twilight, take some of the blood and put it around the door of the house in which they are to eat it. Eat it roasted over a fire with matzah and with maror. Don't leave any of it over until morning. If any of it is left until morning, you shall burn it. So first of all, it's important to know that these rules are being given not when the Israelites are already free, but actually they're in Egypt and they're having this thing called a gathering. They're having a festive meal. And what's interesting is, and they're eating that meal with something called matzah, the unleavened bread, and something called maror. Maror is something that is bitter, or the Hebrew word for bitter is mar. So that's question number 5. If 4 is, what is the Hebrew word for mar? And name something that you think would be a good thing that you would eat for maror. That's question number 5. We actually typically eat today horseradish, because that's really spicy and fulfills the idea of maror. What else might you choose for that? Maror, that was your question number 5. Okay, now we're going to continue. And then one other question, by the way. What I find really interesting here, so here we are, our slaves in Egypt. They are getting ready to leave. They know that after this plague, the Pharaoh is probably going to let them go. They're going out into the desert, into a place with no water and no food. And all of a sudden, they're told, go eat the best thing that you have, right? They probably don't have a lot of money, so to even have a lamb, like that's like that would be crazy for a slave to actually have that. But now they're asked to actually eat it. Don't leave any of it over, and if any of it is left over, then you have to burn it. Meaning, when you're leaving Egypt with none of that food. Why? That's question number 6. Next part. This is how we shall eat it. You shall be dressed, ready to travel. Question number 7 is kind of, how would you dress it? What is a dress ready to travel? What might that look like? You have sandals on your feet. You have a staff in your hand, and you eat your food fast. And by the way, at this thing often called a Seder, people often get dressed up in that way. They're ready to travel. They have sandals on their feet. They have a staff in your hand, and they're eating food very, very fast, as if they're getting ready to leave. For on that night I will go through the land of Egypt and strike down every male firstborn in the land of Egypt, both human and beast. By the way, why is it, do you think, that only male? Like, why weren't females affected by this plague? And the blood, that's question number 8. And the blood on your house where you are staying shall be a sign for you. When I see your blood, I will pass over you, so that no plague will destroy you. And when I strike the land of Egypt. And by the way, that word, so there's something in here that tells us why Passover is called Passover. Find that in that verses that are highlighted. That's question number 9. Then it says, this day shall be to you one of remembrance. You shall celebrate it as a festival to God throughout the ages. You shall celebrate it as an institution for all time. 7 days you shall eat unleavened and bread without yeast. On the very first day you shall remove leaven from your house. Whoever eats leavened bread or unyeasted bread from the first day to the 7th, that person shall be cut off from Israel. All right. So also we learn here, and Moses said to the people, remember this day on which you went out free from Egypt. So this is Moses talking to them afterwards, house of bondage, how God freed you from it with a mighty hand. No yeasted bread shall be eaten. So Moses is saying you have to remember that day. And we also get this idea that it says, on that day you shall tell your child, saying, on account of this, you're pointing to the Matzah where God acted for me when I was leaving Egypt. So we have this idea that each and every year we're supposed to have this thing called a Seder. We're supposed to tell our children about this event. And a question that often comes up is, well, wait a second. What if I don't have children, right? What if I'm just a kid? Do I have to be at a Seder if I don't have a child? Or what if I have children but they're grown up? Or what if I have a child and they actually know this story really well? Should they actually have to have a Passover Seder? So what's your answer to that? I think that's either question 10 or question 11. Okay, so but this idea, a Seder, was developed so a parent could tell the story of slavery and freedom in an easy, fun, and engaging way, so kids could stay awake and learn the story itself. And I think because the story, so they told the story at night, they had to kind of provide ways to kind of keep kids awake, and that's why this thing called the Seder was developed. And actually, there are some common and weird things that happen during a Seder ritual itself. And so some examples, I don't know if you know any examples, but you might want to, why don't you kind of look up some examples, like what are strange things that happen at a Seder? That's question number 12. Give me 1 or 2 answers. And then here are the answers that I would have. We drink many cups of wine, 4 cups. We have double dippings that happen, 1 veggies and salt water, and 2 maror and charoset. We have a matzah that's hidden. People are sitting in a lounging matter, spicy foodies. So all these things are kind of keep people engaged and keep them asking questions about, like, what are we doing on this night? And so the answer is always, we're here because we're want to talk about slavery and freedom. So you're going to have a couple tasks as a group, and in the groups that you're in, and that is to kind of go through the different steps of a normal Seder and kind of make them in some way your own. There's a lot here, but we'll go through them in a little bit of an easier way. And another thing you're going to do is you're going to look at a traditional Seder plate, and this is the matzah, and then there are these different items that are on the Seder plate. And what is their role in a Seder? Their role is that they help you tell the story, basically. They are the foods that when you eat them, you can say, like, oh, parsley, this is because this is what we eat because it's like spring, and this tells us that we did have hope. Oh, spicy, this tells us about all the sadness that we have. And you're kind of eating that thing and telling the story. Oh, charoset, that's like the cement in that we use to build bricks. Oh, the bone, that's like that's like of the lamb, the bone of the lamb that we killed that and ate the food, and we use the blood. Oh, salt, that's because we had salty tears. So we kind of do that along the way. Oh, right. And so one of the things that I mentioned to class was that you can manipulate the different signs by kind of thinking about what that food means and what might be a better way to think about those foods. Um, You'll also have, by the way, at our Seder, not 4 cups of wine, but there'll be 4 kind of place parts, 4 drinking opportunities. And since a cup of wine is really wine equals joy, and what would be, you're going to have to think about as your group, kind of what would be your cup of joy along the way. So like these are kind of the tasks, and there are also some songs that we traditionally sing that are in blue that we're going to be doing. And you're going to know, you're going to basically decide, by the way, as a group, that there are kind of 3 different topics that we speak about on Passover night. We speak about kind of getting into slavery. We think about how we became slaves in the first place. We think about being in the thick of slavery. We think about that fight for freedom while we were in slavery. Then we think about kind of the leaving process. And each of those are almost kind of like different stories. And we thought for this Seder that you would pick, as with a group, you would pick kind of one of these stories. So for question number 14, which thing, if you were the leader of your group, and you're not the leader because an 11th grader is the leader, but if you were a leader, the main leader, which of these topics would you choose, or which of these strands would you choose? Topic 1, 2, 3, and 4. And for question number 15, tell me why. Okay, that's it. Again, we're going to be meeting on Monday at 9 to 9:30. You'll see the Google link, and that will be Edpuzzle for the week. This Edpuzzle, I know I'm getting it out to you. This video I'm getting to you a little late, so you can hand it in by Sunday at 5 o'clock. All right. Thanks so much. Bye.